again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
Time of the week, but not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews and your fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. The most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that mile high Broncos country.
Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news.
What is up, Broncos country? Welcome to another edition of Orange Weekly After Dark. As usual, I'm Jason, and joining me again tonight is KevDan Dino. And 17-10 loss for the Broncos.
Wait, that's it? I don't get a special intro?
I'm too upset to give you special names this week.
Yeah. Wow, that's like the chillest intro you've ever given. Okay.
Add it to the list of disappointments. Another game where a brilliant defensive effort was wasted by an inept offense, and if it feels like deja vu, it's because we've been here before.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah, again and again and again. Again, 17-10, another game where the Broncos were unable to put up any offense, minus one broken coverage play from the Titans where we were able to get a touchdown from that. Outside of that, this is sad to say one of our worst offensive performances of the year. And that's saying a lot. We didn't even have a red zone trip this year. This segment feels this year,
well,
this week.
This year, if we get into the red zone, we're probably not getting a touchdown anyway. So
I guess so. Again, I'm too upset to even throw in stuff right now.
He didn't even wear Broncos stuff to Broncos show. I don't blame him. Look, hey, we got the
I'm repping the
champs.
Avs. I'm repping the Avs.
You know
today.
what?
At least they're getting some dubs. They're getting some dubs. Maybe the Broncos can learn a thing or two. What?
Richie, how you doing?
What alarm clock?
I don't hear an alarm clock. Do you? I don't know.
Must be yours.
Must be yours. Yeah.
Eagles did lose. Yep. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But go Broncos. I'll agree with that. So I feel like I ask the same question every week and we get the same responses, but where the heck do we go from here?
Well, look, you have to continue to find a way to build off what the defense is giving you. The defense is giving you everything they got, and it's working phenomenally. The average points that the Broncos allow this year are 16.6 per game. Broncos are only averaging 14.4, which is why we are where we are.
Is that bad?
Well, what I'm saying is, man, we're not asking a lot from them. Get one more field goal per game, and we'd have a winning record right now, on average. Then that's not great. I'm not saying that that's like something to be like, woohoo, yay, but at least we'd have something to be building off of, some positivity that these guys can go back off of, right? Which was the whole big thing about the Jacksonville win. Like, I think right now we're trying to find a way to build off of something, but the offense is doing nothing. The defense is doing it all.
Yeah, and not to sound like total Debbie Downer here, I think a lot of Broncos country took that Jacksonville loss as more than what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That was still a pretty awful performance.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
And I think a lot of people oversee that and went, oh, maybe they're gaining momentum. How terrible was that start of the game? if you remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
They had a successful drive at the end of the half, at the start of the half, and then nothing but 3 and outs.
Mm-hmm.
3 and outs
The rest
the
of the
entire time until the very last drive.
Mm-hmm.
So that game was pretty awful too. And so, yeah, we got the win on that one based on 3 successful drives. But at the end of the day, that was still an equally terrible performance. And you add everything else into the mistakes, the drop passes, the penalties. And it's not a good sign when one of the keys for the game or whatever that they showed was for the Broncos offense to just try to be average.
Yeah,
Like,
they're like just
that's
be
the lofty
average.
goal is to just be average. And right when it seemed like they might be figuring out third down a little bit, they were 4 for 8, I believe, or somewhere around there.
Which is the league, it's above average,
Right, and then they went 0 for 9 for the rest of the game.
Exactly.
So as soon, and that's probably the issues. It seems that's, you know, 1 step forward, 5 steps backwards for this offense. And it's, you know, hey, defense wins championships, but you got to get there first. I mean, you know, if you're the offense, you gotta figure something out. And at this point, you know, especially listening to some of Hackett's answers to the media today, I don't think he's going anywhere for the season. We've already discussed that.
Yeah.
But I just cannot see, unless something totally drastically changes these back 8 games, I cannot possibly see how he's going to be here next year.
And I don't know what you think, because I'm trying to figure out why wouldn't Hackett just give up play calling to Russ? At this point, what do you have to lose?
Well, and that's just it. And, you know, I think, you know, at this point, we haven't got there. We will definitely get there, though. Yeah. And hey, Joey, good evening from Fort Collins. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, I think it goes back to his lack of leadership and his lack of managerial skills. I mean, every point of the season we can look to that anyone with eyes can say that was wrong, and Hackett has doubled down on it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from people talking about, should you have done preseason the way you did preseason? Oh yeah, I would do it again.
What?
Okay. You know, and all the decisions he makes, and then week after week, no, I'm not going to give a play calling. I'm not going to give a play calling. We're going to evaluate every single thing. And the evaluation starts with me. It starts with me, but I'm not going to give anything up. Mm-hmm. And so it's him doubling down and his refusal to make any kind of adjustments. And I think that's what's gotten us here, right? Is week to week we've seen 0 adjustments. In game, we see 0 adjustments, which explains our third quarter ineptitude.
Yep.
You know, 12 points all season in the third quarter. And it's just, at this point, we were coming off a bye week too. That's something else that has to be addressed. Is, you know, you look at successful coaches and their records coming off a bye, and they are dang good. Mm-hmm. We came off a bye and got a whopping 10 points. And so, you know, you were given an extra week to prepare, to try different things out, to look at the Titans defense, who were missing 5 starters on defense, mind you. So it's not like they were a healthy defense by any means. They were missing half their starting defense. And we still could only get 10 points. And again, I think it goes back to your question of why hasn't Hackett adjusted anything? I think it's part because he doesn't know how to, and part he's just stubbornness at this point.
Yeah. Hey guys, definitely keep those comments rolling in. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and hit that share button for us.
See, this is what I hear too. It's tough to see because we're not in the headset. Hackett said he's the one calling the play. Most of the plays. I mean, he said that today. They asked what's going on wrong with the offense again, and one of his responses was, "It's everything from my play calling to player execution." And so again, whether that's the case or not, or whether he's just kind of taking the fall, which I don't know at this point. If your job is on the line, if you would take the fall like that. But look, I don't know if Russell has that much of an influence. And what I would argue too is, at the end of the day, Hackett, you're the coach, right? So even if Russell's saying, "Hey, let's do this, let's do this, let's just do this," it's still on you as a coach to say, "No, I'm the coach.
Right.
You're the player. We're doing things this way."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Nothing I see right now, for me, I can't find one thing that creates an argument to keep Hackett after this year so far.
Yeah.
Let's see. Would you guys agree that the Russell Wilson deal and the Hackett hire set the franchise back 5 to 7 years? No. I'll let you go first.
Have we definitely set ourselves back at least 1 year? Yeah. Look, that could change with, whatever coaching decisions they make over the offseason. You got to remember that Dan Quinn, which I guess I didn't know a lot about this that you informed me of last time, really only wanted the Broncos. And once we offered it to Hackett, he didn't want any other head coaching job. But Dan Quinn also has time working with Russell Wilson out in Seattle. So that's a very, very promising thing where, man, if he's still interested coming out here and getting things right with Russell and reuniting those two, okay. Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to go, because this ownership group is looking at the team and saying, we need to get this thing back on track ASAP. So you very well could be looking at hey, we're cleaning house. George Payton will probably say, because he's done really well with drafts and developing talent and finding talent, right? He's obviously F- grade on coaches so far, but
0 for 1.
0 for 1. But yeah, so I wouldn't say 5 to 7 years. Look, I think Russ has a lot of good stuff still left in him. This combination is not working. Hackett's refusing to change, like you're saying. And so it looks really bad. I would not be surprised if we are really, really competitive again in another 2-ish years. You get healthy, you get more players, you get more draft capital back, recover that from Russell Wilson. We'll see where we land in the first round this year with San Francisco's pick. So I wouldn't say we're going to be in this hell for another 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think 5 to 7 years is extensive. I think there's a lot of appeal in Dan Quinn, everything from you just mentioned, but also the rumor is wherever Dan Quinn goes, he's going to take the offensive coordinator with him from Dallas, because they work really close together. And I believe the offensive coordinator has ties to Wilson too. I think he was some kind of coach back in Seattle. So there's that too. Plus, our defensive coordinator has ties with Dan Quinn too. And so that increases the chance of keeping him.
That would be great, because I really think that people are going to go after him and Philadelphia's offensive coordinator.
Philadelphia offensive coordinator is like the hottest name on the market. Evero, he's going to get some looks. I think he's just because, this is the first year he's even been a coordinator, right? So he might get some looks, make some talks, but ultimately I think he stays as a coordinator. Where that is, who knows? But I think Dan Quinn would help increase the chance that he stays here. People are writing off this Russell Wilson deal already. I think, unfortunately, we have to give it another year, right? One, we're married to Wilson. The contract, how it is, we have Wilson for a while. There's no way around that. But I think once you get Wilson, hey, let's get a new set of coaches. Let's get healthy. Let's give you a year like that. Then we can start to assess. And if it's another year like this, then okay, we're in trouble, right? If it's a year like this,
if we're sitting here a year from now saying the same things, then Joey posts this comment again in a year from now and see how we answer then.
Right. Exactly. So I don't think we've been set back 5 to 7 years. Like you said, this is a bit of a lost season for all kinds of reasons. But I don't see, hey, if we make the right moves going to next year, we get the right head coach. I don't see why we wouldn't be competitive next year. Not a Super Bowl contender by any means, but at least where we thought we would be this year.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yes and no. I don't think it's a make or break in the sense that if we lose, he will be out Monday morning. I do think it's make or break that it might be the last straw in Peyton's head where he goes, I don't care what happens the rest of the season, we're moving on. We'll see, but I mean, the Raiders just lost to the Colts, whose coach, if you haven't been following, this was his first time literally ever coaching, not as a head coach. Jeff Saturday has never coached at collegiate or professional level, and they beat the Raiders. And so we lose to the Raiders now. What does that say about us and our coaching situation? And so make or break, yes and no. Let's see. Let's try to get some more of these comments before we address injuries. We have not forgotten about that, I promise. He has to, and I'll tell you this, and I talked about it with somebody else earlier this morning. If he doesn't have that level of control, that's on him. I mean, there's no way around that. If you're a head coach, and what it seems like to me in some ways is the players do run the locker room, the players do run the team, that's an issue as a coach. That is unacceptable as a coach. If you do not have control over your players and over your team, that to me is every indication that you are in over your head and you have no business being a head coach. Yep. Try pulling that on Dan Quinn. How do you think his players in Atlanta when he was a head coach, right? How do you think his defensive players in Dallas right now, go back to Seattle? How do you think Seattle's players would have, how he would have handled the Seattle players if they had to try to pull that stuff on it? Yeah. It ain't happening. He commands that respect, right? Hackett, okay, if he doesn't, to me, that's even more of an indication that Hackett needs to go, because if he doesn't have control over his team, over his players, that is on him too.
Yep. Agreed.
Let's see. Also, I'm struggling to not point the fact that we are seeing wide open wide receivers not get the ball thrown, as well as throws being thrown with piss poor accuracy. Yes and no to that too, right? Again, part of it might be misreads. Part of it might be on the receivers running the wrong routes, not breaking hard enough. Part of it is on Wilson. Part of it's, again, on this offense that Hackett's trying to force Wilson into, right? Wilson is not a pocket quarterback. He's how tall? They say 5'11".
Probably 5'10".
He's probably closer to 5'10". What's the smallest offensive lineman we have right now? 6'3", 6'4". So you try to look over a wall of 6'3", 6'4", and see every open receiver there is. Why do you think he was so successful in Seattle, moving outside the pocket so he could see, right? You can't see over a wall. And so, again, not to excuse Wilson, he has not been up. And to be fair, I don't think he played terrible yesterday. No. He had some questionable throws and stuff, but he made a great read on the cover zero where he audibled the play for the touchdown.
Yeah.
He had over 200 yards pass, and for a lot of the game, he was under duress as soon as he touched the ball, right? So
especially once we went to our third string center.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. We are set back to 3 years unless we trade another key player. And again, that'll be up in the air. We unfortunately won't know the answer to this kind of debate until the end of next year.
Right.
One way or the other. I
did not say that, Cat. Get out of here.
If he said something like that, I would be worried that he was kidnapped and held against his will, and that was his way of trying to get someone's attention.
One of those deep fake videos.
Yeah. Let's see. Coached a feeder school. Said, okay, sorry. He did coach a college feeder school once. You're right. So this was his. If you count that, this is talking about Jeff Saturday. If you count that, then. I suppose, but in terms of legit games, you got called a dork. That sucks for you.
No, her boyfriend Kevin.
Yeah, but she called you a dork.
Nope.
That's
nope.
Just saying.
Nope.
Please find me an OL with linemen under 6 feet. That they don't exist. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is the offensive line is over 6 feet tall, right? Because you're right, you're not going to find linemen under that. And so the point I'm trying to make is Wilson is way under that. Wilson is 5'10", 5'11" at best. And so that's what made him successful in Seattle is they worked this offensive system where they moved him out of the pocket. Look at how many rolling plays they had, right? Bootleg plays, rolling out of the pocket so he could see downfield. Right now, the issue is not the offensive lineman being too tall, right? That's how linemen are. The issue is Hackett trying to force Wilson to stay inside the pocket at all times where Wilson cannot see over the lineman, right? And so I think to a degree that explains some of the missed wide receivers is because he literally cannot see that they are open, right? Because he has a wall of people in front of him that he cannot see over. And so that's the issue that I'm trying to address there.
And of course, you got to remember that all those, the bootlegs, the play actions, all of that, the rolling out of the pocket is all predicated on a very strong running game. Tennessee had 63 rushing yards. Do you know how many we had?
About the same.
65. So we did slightly better, but we had 65 yards. Gordon and Murray both had 24. Now, Gordon did end up averaging more than 3.4 yards per carry. Murray was just under that. So, overall, on average between those two, you're looking at 3 yards a carry. Not bad. But that's just, there's no real threat there. They were really shutting that down a lot. And that And this game was an example of just Russ can't do his thing, and you can't do those things if you don't have a run game going.
Yep, absolutely. All kinds of issues. Thanks for the clarification. You did call him a dork, though, right? Can we clarify that he was the one being called a dork? If we can get some clarification on that. Should also be straight for someone taller. Unfortunately, Wilson's not going anywhere.
Nobody's going to want to take his contract.
Right.
In addition to the way he's playing. Those two things together, nobody's going to want to touch that contract.
Right. Yeah. The dead cap money that the Broncos would incur is unmanageable. Absolutely unmanageable. A lot of short jokes for tonight. That's I always say that short jokes are a sign of desperation. Like, there's a lot of things you can criticize Wilson about right now. If you have to revert to the size factor, then you're not thinking hard enough right now. So
it is late at night.
Wilson is fair game. Don't get me wrong. Again, there's a lot to be making fun of him for. But again, if you're having to revert to the height issue, let's get a little bit more creative here. Let's get a little bit more creative. Is all I'm saying. Do we have any breaks to
yes
dive into? I'll go into that.
Okay, so obviously, guys, there's still a lot of football to be played left this year, right? It feels like our season is over, but it's not. And I tell you what, that feeling you get when you win a game and the clock is counting down and you're just like, oh, just one more play. That excitement that builds, guys, that is real and that is awesome. And that is part of why I love sports so much, right? Well, guess what? You can make every play feel that exciting with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL and their unbeatable offers. Right now, new customers can make any $5 NFL bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Guys, check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. So tons of matches, whichever one you like. Of course, we're going to be focusing on the Broncos versus Raiders. It's going to be a very tight game for both teams, very important game for both teams in terms of how they're viewed in the league, their coaching situations, all that stuff, right? But you can look at those matchups, you can make those parlays and use that stepped up same game parlay once per game day all season long. So check that out. In order to get in on this, guys, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code TPPN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Just place a $5 bet on any football game only at DraftKings Sportsbook using promo code TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Beautiful. If only our offense could run that smoothly. And just for the final bit of clarification, you are the dork. That was clarified. I'm not making this up. It's just how it is. Injury wise, let's turn to the injuries. Some good news, actually. Jerry Jeudy is considered day-to-day, actually, which he dodged a bullet. Everything from what a lot of people saw. Usually when you see a non-contact injury to the ankle, reaching around, grabbing the Achilles, a lot of concern about that Achilles tendon. Fortunately, they're just saying it's a minor strain of some muscle behind the ankle, and which is interesting because there's not that many muscles behind the ankle. So the wording of it's interesting. So I'm curious what muscle that could be, but either way, it is considered minor and he is considered day-to-day. So he has a chance on Sunday, which is kind of shocking seeing as how he left the field, right? Unable to really put pressure on it. The way he was in immense pain afterwards, but hey, some good news on that one. Billy Turner is considered week to week with a knee injury. So I wouldn't expect him on Sunday. No. Quan Williams week to week with a knee as well. He underwent a arthroscopic procedure on his knee to clean up some loose bodies that were causing his knee to lock. And so a bit of a blow on our defense. I think Bassie will probably step in for him. Yep. Glasgow is considered day-to-day, which is good news, right? Obviously, we can have our center. Granted, he's the second string center, but better than a rookie third string. So he is considered day-to-day, which is obviously good news as well. So a very injured, beat-up team. As all season has been, just kind of keeps going more and more into our testing our depth. But some good news came out of some of the injury report today.
There was a question yesterday, Jay, on the post-game podcast, and you've covered it before, but it's just good you explain it really well. Some people are starting, to start calling out the trainers, and the medical staff, thinking, hey, if we keep getting beat up, there must be something wrong with our trainers and the athletic training staff. Take it away.
Yeah, I'll try to be nice because usually I'm very mean towards those people and commenting on stuff that they don't have the slightest clue on what actually goes on a day-to-day basis in that kind of realm. But I will say this. Yes, the Broncos are a very injured team. Guess what? Injuries across the NFL are up this year. It's not a Broncos specific issue. If you look at the Chargers, you see all kinds of more season-ending injuries came across the league from yesterday. I know Ertz from Arizona is out for the year now. Cooper Kupp is sounding like he's done for the year, even though he might have avoided a worst-case injury, so he might be able to get in towards the end of the year. But either way, injuries are up league-wide. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? You've seen this push on the players about turf fields versus natural grass fields. How much of a role does that play into it? Realistically, though, hey, injuries happen. It's a contact sport, right? You've got situations like Jerry Jeudy, who has a history of ankle injuries, right? So non-contact injury, what do you expect them to do, right? Look at some of these other injuries, again, part of the issue that a lot of people are overlooking too are how many free agents have we signed over the past couple of years who have an extensive injury history. That plays into it as well, right? You get injured once, that body part is almost always more likely to be injured again. And so there's a lot of factors that go into this. And let me tell you that the work that the medical staff and the strength staff does on a week-to-week basis to get this team healthy enough to play, right? We've seen some quick turnarounds before we were pretty shocked about. Look, that it takes a ton of effort, ton of time that these guys are putting in that you guys don't see. Look, they know what they're doing. They don't get to that level if they don't know what they're doing. And so you can question them all you want. That's fine. Your prerogative as a fan. But these guys are extensively educated. They have an extensive background of knowledge and experience. I promise you they're not the reason why these things are happening to the degree that they are. Yeah. Yes, Williams is out for 4 weeks from that knee procedure, which is pretty standard for that procedure. So can't say I'm too surprised by that. Likely. Look, Broncos have a tough schedule from here on out, right? Yeah. We've got a couple weeks where, we got the Raiders, we got the Panthers, and then after those are the last, and those are our last. And the Chargers. Chargers are definitely not an easy team to beat this year, especially if you're an offense that puts up 10 points a game. So we got the Raiders and the Panthers, which are winnable games on paper anyways. But then we've got the Chiefs twice still.
Oh God.
We've got the Chargers, we've got the Ravens, I think we got the Cardinals, and the Rams.
Oh God.
So it's not like your schedule gets much easier, especially at these next 2 weeks. So sadly, outside of some upsets, 1-7 is how they've been playing. How far in the season are we right now? 10 weeks. Yep. When you see a product that's the same for 10 weeks, I'm not sure why you would expect a sudden turnaround. But hey, it was a shoulder injury, actually. They listed as a shoulder injury. Not sure what that was. There's 1,000 things that can go with the shoulder. He was guarding it, which tends to mean and this is pure speculation, so don't take this. Don't quote me on this. It could have been a subluxation, a dislocation of a shoulder. AC subluxation. So dislocation, shoulder is completely out of the socket. Subluxation, it comes out of the socket and then goes back in on its own. We know which one wasn't in the medical field. Could be an AC sprain / shoulder separation. So it could be a lot of things. But it was a shoulder, which as a lineman is kind of important, right? Especially once you kind of get, once you're getting pulled out this way a little bit. If you're able to keep perfect form and technique and stay inside your body all the time, less of a problem. But obviously, the way the game works, that isn't always the case and how it happens. So, shoulder injury, less than ideal. But again, they're listening to his day to day. So we'll see what they're able to do with him.
Yeah, his hand was in a cast.
Right, yeah, but that hasn't prevented him from playing.
No, he had an interception.
I was going to say it hasn't even prevented him from catching the ball, which some of our wide receivers haven't been able to do very
maybe everybody
consistently. So he does have another injury as well, but has not kept him out of the games. But unfortunately, yes, now he has a knee injury that is going to keep him out for about 4 weeks. And yes, he was wearing a club for that. Not as much as you would think. I'll tell you what, we'll put Kevin in a set of pads, and we will let a professional NFL player just go as hard as he can and just slam into the ground, and we'll count how many injuries from that one hit Kevin has.
How much do I get paid for this?
High five.
No,
we'll still have him do it. As a voluntary experience for him.
10,000 minimum.
With all the pads.
10,000 minimum.
10,000 injuries is probably what it would be.
Yeah, $1 per injury. Let's do it. Then it's worth it.
Absolutely. Let's see what sort of impact is working out. And so I did touch on this previous week, and so I'll touch on this very, very quick. Since it has been one of my hot button issues. I think the way they handled preseason absolutely set up issues, and especially the first few weeks of the season. And I do think it has lingering aspects throughout the course of the season as well. Not just not having starters play in preseason games, which I think is a mistake, but how light the workload was during the offseason too, right? A lot of walkthroughs, jog-throughs, non-contact practices. Realistically, this was like the lightest offseason, preseason training camp I've ever heard of a team doing. Yeah. And that does play a massive role, right? You're expecting these professional athletes to basically go from 0 to 100 on a day, right? Which is just not realistic. And I think that's where a lot of these hamstrings, a lot of soft tissue injuries come from, is a lack of preparation. And that's not on the training staff. It's not on the strength staff, the athletic training staff. That is on Hackett, the coaching staff, right, and their approach to it. So it does play a role, a pretty big role, I think, and statistically. But what can you do?
Yeah, I've never heard that word before.
So again, some of us get a little queasy around some medical things. So
it's okay until I see bone, and then game over.
It's not even that bad. It's white. It's just, it looks like marble. It's not. He says bone, but you show him blood too, and he gets a little woozy. So,
well, a lot of blood or a little blood?
Either.
No.
Should work on. We'll contact the NFLPA on your behalf and say that they need to work on the protection for the players.
Yes, we did, Kat. Yes, we did.
What is this?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Broncos show. So yeah.
Welcome to Rivalry Week.
What's up, bud?
Welcome to Rivalry Week. It's
gonna be a tough game for both teams.
We'll make a bet. Whoever loses this game has to have their same coach for the rest of the next season as well. Ooh. So either the Raiders have to keep Josh McDaniels if we win.
I would almost rather that.
Because that's why it's a good bet for
exactly.
But if we lose, we have to keep Hackett for another year.
See, I don't like that.
That's what I'm saying. Welcome to Rivalry Week. We're going to start wrapping up a little bit, guys. Go and start posting your final thoughts, comments. I mean, they always say that, right? I mean, you're not going to hear.
We're going to fire him after he loses 2 more games.
Let's be real. If they lose out, there's no way they are keeping McDaniels. I don't think McDaniels would willingly stay the way that. I know they announced it. What they say right now versus what they say at the end of the season could be completely different.
Remember,
completely different.
What was it back before we hired Vance Joseph?
Yeah.
Elway says, we are going to hire somebody with prior head coaching experience.
Yeah.
2 days later, they hire Fans Joseph.
Right.
So what they say today, I don't care what they say. That's coach speak.
Yes,
that's front office
what
speak.
they have to say.
Let me see what you actually do, and then I'll judge you on that.
We welcome you into the Broncos country.
Welcome, man. Welcome.
Oh man. Yeah.
Well, yes, but
I mean,
my point is valid.
That's a separate discussion for
That is
another
a separate
day.
discussion.
We won't dive too much into that. All right. So here's some things that I'm starting to worry about even more so than before. Again, Hackett's inability to make adjustments. We speaking of previous coaches, what was
Fangio?
Not Fangio. What was Vance Joseph's kind of tagline he said week to week that he got made fun of?
We had a great week of practice.
Right. And Fangio?
It's on me.
No, the death by inches.
Death by inches. Oh, yeah. Fangio, death by inches. Yeah.
And now we're running into a situation where Hackett is, we evaluate everything starting with me.
No.
And accountability starting with me.
No, nothing's changed.
And literally nothing has changed. And so we're hearing about this accountability. We're hearing about this fully evaluating everything after every week. And yet literally nothing has changed. And I'm not just talking about results. I would have been happy if we would have gotten the same results, trying something completely different.
Sure.
Because at least we're trying something different. However, again, after a bye week, that was your chance to try something different. You had ample time to prepare for something different. Didn't happen. What do you think? Is this finally, is Hackett feeling his seat is hot enough now where he just starts throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks? Or is he going to triple down into how abysmal his offense has been, continue to blame only execution and say that his offense there's nothing wrong with his play calling?
If I'm Hackett, which I'm not an NFL coach. If I was Hackett, at this point, I knew that shit is not good. You can try to turn off, the radio and ignore the news and stay off social media. It's still going to get to you. These guys know what's being said of them. They know the perceptions that are, that they have. If I'm Hackett, I'm trying anything at this point. Try. What do you have to lose? We're not mathematically eliminated, no, but we're 3-6.
We have a 5% chance in case you want to know what the statistics are.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and spend another week trying something different.
Yeah.
Versus saying, oh, well, we waited 2 more weeks and now we're mathematically. Well, you had 2 more weeks to try different stuff.
Yep. And
if things are finally clicking by the end of the season, okay, well, we've tried some things and things are moving in the right direction now. Okay. But yeah, at this point, if you keep doing the same exact thing over and 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 over again, dude, sorry. We hired you because of your supposed offensive genius, and we're 32nd in the league offensively. So,
yep.
Bye.
Speaking of which, I don't know what this quote is from.
I don't know.
Let us know your
Not
answer.
for something completely different.
I feel like I hear that all over the place, but
yeah.
What
would we try? So the first big thing is really focusing on letting Russ just call the offense. Finding a way to get some sort of run game working where you could open up the play action passes, the moving out of the pocket, allowing Russell to just be himself, forget what we've almost throw out the playbook, and say, Russ, what works for you, what doesn't, we're going to go off of you. If that doesn't work after a couple weeks, okay, well, we tried it at least.
Right.
Hey, maybe Otten, hey, you call the plays. I'm going to step back as the head coach. I'm going to be the head coach. Otten, you are in charge of the offense now.
Or at least dial back, right?
Or at least dial back something, right?
I'll call third down plays, or I'll call the big down plays, but you guys figure out the rest, right? Something, where, like you said, change it up. Another thing is stop with all of the long developing plays too, right? Especially when your quarterback is under constant duress. That is when you start opening up the playbook that has quick slant routes, quick screen plays, that type of stuff, instead of having your receivers go 20, 30 yards before they make a break on their route or whatever. Stop with the long developing plays as well, right? Try some shorter plays, which I think John that joke. Do we have any plays that have 7 to 8 yard routes?
3rd and 5, and we're going to go for a 40-yard bomb.
Right. So
that makes sense.
Absolutely. Monty Python is the
Yes,
answer. What
yes.
is Monty Python? I know the answer to this in case you don't. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's rooting for the Cowboys.
That it is.
I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
All right. What to do different? Announce to the fan base.
But that's the
best
thing.
combos
Announce
after-
it. We need to know it because we need to understand to some degree what's happening behind the scenes. We don't need details, but if you're going to change something like that, I think this fan base at this point deserves to know here's what we're changing to a degree. And you've got to be careful what you say because you don't want to give away too much to the other team. Right.
Yeah, and that I slightly disagree. I don't think we deserve to know. That's just me as I don't think there's anything that we deserve to know that happens, behind closed doors, so to speak. What I will say though is if you want to keep taking the heat, then yeah, don't say anything. Even if you change anything, then still expect heat be thrown at you. For me, if I'm a coach, if I'm hacking, I'm trying something different, then I do something different. I don't have to, say, oh, Otten's calling the plays or Russell Wilson's calling the plays now. To me, that's a closed door conversation that stays within the team. Like you said, part of it is, schematically and not letting the other teams have any kind of advantage into that. But again, at the same time, you can change things and not announce what you're changing. That's fine. But again, if things don't work out, guess where that blame is going to continue to land on. And so it's kind of that double-edged sword, if that makes sense.
This is our year.
We're starting to divulge down quite something. Saying the same thing over expecting different results, just like your head coach does.
I mean, yeah, at this point, it's getting.
But he evaluates every week.
Yeah.
He evaluates everything starting from him. All right, real quick before we wrap up. Again, rivalry week. What would you like to see? Whether that be changes, whether it be game planning, what would you like to see in order to help beat the Raiders? 5-game losing streak to them right now. So to break the streak, what would you expect and hope to see?
I think a lot of it, even if we get Glasgow back, I mean, you saw a huge difference in the way the offensive line performed once we went to Wattenberg. That line that was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was no more protection at that point. With Glasgow in there, obviously much better. So either way, what I think you really need, at least to start the game and build some confidence and get some momentum, you need those quick passes. You need those quick plays. I would even say hurry up offense to a degree. Maybe not the first.
Just no huddle. Yeah.
Yeah. No huddle. Maybe not hurry up, but yeah, no huddle. Like, hey, we have the script. Russ is going to have his wristband. You know what's going to go. Let's go. You know what I mean? And see what the Raiders defense does to counteract that after you go through the pre-scripted plays that you have at the start of the game. Russ, you got this, man. Take it from here and see what we can do. But the other thing is we just can't allow Josh Jacobs to run over us. We shut down Derrick Henry. There's no reason we can't shut down Josh Jacobs. But he seems to only know how to play against the Broncos.
They do seem to have our number.
So
that is for sure. Interesting thought. Yep. 12 personnel, tight end on either side of the OTs, allow for a better running game. Would also allow for tight ends to break away and become outlet throws for very short runs.
Agreed.
Whether we'll actually see that, who knows? For the record, tight ends are all over 6, so should be able to see them
over here.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I think the biggest challenge at this point is mindset. Obviously there's all kinds of issues with this offense, but what I worry about is one, mindset after last loss, right? I mean, the locker room, the post-game media, it was different and not in a good way. It wasn't usually you have players that are still hopeful, like, oh, hey, this wasn't our game, or we got our chance at the end, we just take advantage. You have some that are just straight up angry, which is cool. But what I saw a little bit yesterday was just deflated, right? Where it was like all the air was left out of the room and just not quite giving up, but just that's it for us type of, and so how do you bounce back from that? And why I worry about that, normally in a normal season, I would say that doesn't matter because this is the Raiders, right? It's, this is your biggest rival. It's easy to get up for these games. Unfortunately, we saw last time around where Hackett was saying that this was just another game, just another casual Sunday. You had Russell Wilson smiling, laughing, and doing a jersey exchange after a loss with Derek Carr. And so to me, the culture isn't there either. And so now we have this dangerous matchup of a weak culture and a weak mindset. And those two things worry me more than any schematic issue that we've had this far, right? Yeah. Defense going to take care of business. And, you talked to, you heard some of the defensive players, especially Josie Jewell. They're playing for Aviro, which is cool. Yeah. Also a bit of an issue, right? It's an issue when your defensive players are playing for your defensive coordinator, not your head coach. But Aviro seems to have a very solid handle on the defense, right? And basically telling the defense, hey, keep doing your job. You can't control what the offense does. You got to handle your job so a game doesn't end up being your fault, right? Is basically what he said. Paraphrasing what Jewell said, the general messages. And so defense will take care of business. But I am worried about the offense. And hey, as good as our defense is, we put another 10 points. That's not going to be good enough on a week-to-week basis, even against the Raiders, right? You saw even with how great of a game they had against the Titans, they had one bad defensive drive right before half, and they had one miscue, right? And that was enough to lose the game. Yep. And so, unfortunately, if our offense can't get their crap together, which again, with what I discussed, that's why I'm worried. So. Final comments. I think the locker room bought into Jags momentum hype. That game deflated them quite possibly. I feel like they lose this next game, they won't care anymore because their mindset is they are going to lose anyway. So I try, and I worry that's already kind of where the offensive side of the ball already is.
I think so. I think there's enough that are. I mean, they're still playing for their reputations and their next big payday, right? So if anything. I don't know what would be worse, for the players to be totally checked out or for players to start just playing for themselves.
I mean, ideally you want a situation like Carolina where they've had all kinds of issues this season, from coaching changes to quarterback issues. But they're still fighting their butts off on a game-to-game basis. They're playing for each other. They're playing for the team. And I don't think you have that here. And so ideally, even once you're basically eliminated, you'd like to see that, right? You'd like to see that team camaraderie that was built through the situation that they went through. Unfortunately, I don't see that with the Broncos. I see a lot of frustration with the process, with the mindset, with the head coach, whether they directly say that or not. But yeah, you're right. Especially if they lose this game to the Raiders, then I think it's going to get even uglier going forward. But and unfortunately, they might play better individually. Unfortunately, with the way football is, you can have an outstanding individual game and it gets you absolutely nowhere because you have 11 other guys trying to do their own thing and try to make themselves look good. And so you just have like a bunch of cats going in different directions trying to, go the same way. So anyway, so that's our show tonight, guys. We're going to wrap up. Be sure to tune in to the rest of our coverage throughout the rest of the week, which we are pulling up for you here in a second. There it is. All kinds of content comes to you throughout the week. Obviously, our main show tomorrow night, Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Broncos, Bourbon, and OBS. We got Tailgate Talk, which is about an hour before kickoffs. We got Halftime Hash. We got all kinds of stuff coming your way, podcasts, all that fun stuff. So be sure to tune into the rest of our content as we gear up for the final Raiders game of the year between the Broncos and the Raiders. Absolutely. Hey, Clayton, thanks for joining us. Be sure to catch our show if you missed it tonight. It'll be up for you guys here in a minute. Otherwise, hey, we'll see what happens this week. Yep. Hope for the best. I may or may not be expecting the worst, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So, as always, win or lose, we will finish with a wonderful
Go Broncos. Take care, everyone.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone. zone, here I go. Can